Ladies and gentlemen, the article will be below, and it's about the Durham probe special counsel. It recently surpassed, I think it's not long ago, it surpassed the Mueller probe special counsel as one of the longest running investigations in American history. So you can look, what's to show for two long running probes? There wasn't much there following Mueller's investigation. What are the investigation into that investigation? So this is just out right now. Fun fact, it took special counsel Robert Mueller less than 2 years to release his report into Russian interference in the 2016 election, dubbed Crossfire Hurricane. By the way, a little side note, not one shred of evidence has shown that anyone in the country, not even one vote, was altered or influenced by Facebook ads. There's no way to find that out. It's all conjecture, hearsay, gossip, innuendo, a belief that isn't backed up. Well, it's a baseless claim. It is a baseless claim to say that Russia interfered in 2016. You can't explain how. James Comey, with his letter, which was part of an overall, Democrats say, well, look, Comey was completely impartial. He wrote a letter prior to the election showing that there was classified data outside the U.S. government yet again. He should have recommended indictments for top secret and special access program intelligence somehow transferred and stored onto computer systems and servers. Say it slowly, Democrats who say butter emails. Servers outside of the United States government for 4 years. The whole thing was a massive, almost certain cover-up. That's not tinfoil hat. Comey himself said there was no intent. And then they went after everyone associated with Trump, and they're still going after people associated with Trump simply because he paid for his CFO's grandchildren's tuition. So Mueller found the evidence insufficient, meaning he had no evidence, only baseless claims that Trump worked with Russia. The Mueller probe report showed that there was insufficient evidence to charge anyone, even for a campaign finance violation. They couldn't go after Donald Trump Jr. for the Trump Tower meeting because guess what? Nobody broke any laws. You are allowed to know Russian individuals. Yes, you are, Democrats. I know that this is this McCarthy-era Red Scare world that you still live in, but you're allowed to do business and work and speak to Russian individuals or any individual of any country. The most xenophobic people are the oftentimes apoplectic but always morally superior liberal Democrats who say without any evidence at all that Trump worked with Russia because the Steele dossier that they purchased said so, and they purchased a dossier that was compiled with Russian government officials. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Hit subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. The link is below. I have a great segment out on the Arizona recount. They've already basically given their report. I'll do that, another segment on that after this, but they've already given their report to the Republican Senate, and the Republican Senate now has a new recount to ensure that the Cyber Ninjas discrepancies, whatever discrepancies they found, are accurate. So I talk about that on a segment prior to this one and on H.A. Goodman's other channel, but they found nothing in terms of Trump-Russia. By the way, I have a live stream every day at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Pacific, so check that out. If you do want to support my work long-term, ladies and gentlemen, your support is greatly appreciated. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding. I'm not like the ultra-wealthy Democratic socialists who join networks and then suddenly have 1 million subs. Interesting. It's fantastic. More power to them. But it's capitalism. That's the definition of capitalism. You join numerous people within that network, the $20 million venture capital funded monstrosity that actually is facing its own discrimination lawsuit right now. Interestingly enough, nobody's talking about it, but anyway. It's the definition of capitalism to grow your channel. I'm all for capitalism. It's fantastic. I was when I was a Bernie Sanders supporter back in the day also. This mentality now, well, whatever, we can get into the hypocrisy. It's the epitome of capitalism when you are funded $20 million by venture capitalists. Anyway, And you join a network and then talk about how you're this edgy lefty socialist, whatever. Look, hypocrisy, they're immune to hypocrisy. They don't even know what the word means. But here, and then they don't even defend one another. Jimmy Dore is 100% right. Jimmy Dore has been 100% right on what the left is all about for a long time. I told everybody what the left was about, but nobody really cared. Thank God I left that world. It's so dysfunctional. And here, you know what? If you are somebody on the left and you just happen to stumble upon this and you're just watching this, do yourself a favor and eventually leave that world. It is the most dysfunctional, horrible place to be. I'll just leave it at that. And you don't have to support Trump. You don't have to change party affiliation. Just leave that world, that cyber reality, that dysfunctional, dystopian, pseudo-moralistic. It's become a religion. It's the politics on the left is a religion with the same type of dogma and the same type of blind faith and allegiance that, wonderful atheists say, that atheists try to use as the basis for not believing in God. Well, there's no evidence that Trump worked with Russia, okay? But there is evidence, getting back to the Durham probe, there's evidence that James Clapper and Brennan and Comey especially lied under oath numerous times, but also set up and framed Trump they set up and framed Trump for political purposes. Okay, there's actually a U.S. code that I talked about in the Federalist, a legal code, that you break, that they were actually trying to level against Trump. But they actually broke that code in trying to go after Trump. We're still interested in the results of the Durham investigation. So one investigation resulted in a raft of indictments and convictions, really, because they couldn't get Trump directly, just like they can't get Trump directly now, because everything they accuse him of, he's not guilty of. So they go after everyone around him out of vengeance. You're talking about the most vengeful, malicious people, petulant people. The other not so much, probably because Durham is more scrupulous than Mueller. We're interested in the results of the Durham investigation, and now that his investigation has lasted longer than the Mueller investigation, hopefully we'll learn about his findings very soon. For his troubles, Mueller can boast a long list of scalps. Yeah, but Peter Strzok, who was kicked off of the Mueller probe, is one of the people who helped set up and frame Michael Flynn and George Papadopoulos. We already have an agent at the Bureau, Kleinsmith, pleading guilty to falsifying information, to deceive a FISA judge. The argument or the case against Trump was so weak they had to deceive FISA judges. Think about that for a second. The case was so weak that they couldn't indict anyone on working with Russian intelligence officials, and they had to deceive judges. Okay? But again, you see, this is a myth. This is mythology that they truly believe. They have to believe it because otherwise it would just be, okay, President Trump presided over record low unemployment, and we have Prince Valium right now who doesn't really know what's going on, and poll numbers are tanking for Democrats. We can go on forever here. Mueller's biggest fish, campaign chairman Paul Manafort, was, that's for crimes that he committed years prior, like a decade prior to the Mueller probe. And they could do the same thing. They could go after Democrats. He worked with Democrats associated with Clinton's campaign in one way or another. And they don't go after, the Mueller probe and New York prosecutors and congressional Democrats do not go after their own political side. You could easily investigate everybody from Clinton again for private servers with top secret intel. That was never really an investigation. That was almost certainly just a cover-up. There was intent there. But see, again, look, nobody cares about that. Nobody cares about private servers with top secret intel. Apparently, nobody cares about stock trades. Dianne Feinstein, Kelly Loeffler, Richard Burr. Richard Burr was head of the Senate Intelligence Committee against trying to fabricate things against Trump. And he sold stocks right before the downturn, after having been in a classified briefing. Okay, that's called insider trading. It's against the law. Martha Stewart went to prison for that, or went to prison for that. So it's like, but they got out of it. So Kleinsmith's punishment for making false statements, prosecutors recommended 3 to 6 months. Eventually, he just got probation. So you can read the article below. It's one of America's longest-running probes. The Durham probe special counsel surpasses Mueller now. Just because nobody's talking about, please, for the love of God, you can if you want to, but this is like, oh, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to happen. Well, you don't even have a complete Republican Party on board with Trump, even though he runs the Republican Party. So nothing will happen until 2022, and then you'll have some kind of, well, Democrats will say retribution, which is what they've been engaged in for 4 or 5 years, but you'll have some kind of justice. Because you'll have a Republican Party that actually wants justice. The Republicans were in on setting Trump up. That's why there's nothing's going to happen now. The Republicans were in on it, and the Durham probe is obviously, everybody knows Mueller was politically motivated. Everyone around him was politically motivated. There were only Democrats, lifelong Democrats, and people who gave to the Democratic Party. Then you had people like Peter Strzok who were kicked out of the Bureau. People like Andrew McCabe kicked out also. James Comey said that not only Andrew McCabe lied, but that Attorney General Loretta Lynch lied under oath. And Attorney General Loretta Lynch said that James Comey lied under oath. So there you go. I mean, you don't even need, Durham probably knows a great deal more than I do and than you do, but it's like the public record. Everyone knows they set up and framed Trump because they have utter contempt for him. They don't like him. And that's the only reason they set him up and framed him with Trump Russia. Give me your thoughts below. It's not a national security issue when you yourself are using a dossier that you purchase with one Russian intelligence official allegedly having been interviewed for the input of the dossier, which was completely fabricated and bogus. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right